Imagine this. You step outside at 2:30 p.m. and the air feels like a hairdryer aimed at your face. The patio chair burns your legs through your jeans. Your tomato leaves curl like paper, your peppers drop blossoms, and the hose water comes out lukewarm, like it already gave up. You look at the garden. You worked on it for 3 months, and it looks back at you like it wants a refund. And the worst part, you still have to cook dinner in a hot kitchen. Good news, you can build living cooling around your home and garden, and relief can start faster than you think. Here's what you're getting today: 15 cooling plants you can grow in the USA, counted down in reverse from number 15 to number 1. So you end with the most powerful one. These are the plants that help you feel better in a heat wave and help your garden stop frying, often with no replanting, almost set and forget, year after year, even forever if you propagate them right. Some shade you, some hydrate you, some calm your body, and some cool the soil so your harvest keeps coming. This is food security that makes you less dependent on stores for the rest of your life. And listen, you won't believe what shows up at number 12, because most people have it in their driveway cracks and think it's trash. Number 7 shocked me too, because it quietly air conditions your garden while feeding your compost system. And number 2 can turn one planting into baskets of medicine and food with almost no fuss. Stay with me, you will not want to miss number 12. Number 15. Sweet potato. You can turn one warm season into a living mulch that cools the ground like a green blanket. Sweet potato vines sprawl fast, shade the soil, and slow evaporation so the dirt stays moist longer, even in brutal July heat. Think of it like putting a lid on a pot. Your garden stops losing steam all day. You get edible leaves in many varieties, plus the tubers if your season runs long enough. Practical benefit: in many parts of the USA, you can harvest 10 to 30 pounds per 100 square feet, and you also choke out weeds that steal water. Bonus tip: root a few slips in a jar of water in May, and you never need to buy starts again. Just keep your own vine bank forever. Number 14. Okra. You plant okra once, and it acts like a shade pole that feeds you during the hottest days. Okra loves heat the way lettuce hates it, and it keeps producing when other plants sulk. Those tall stems create dappled shade that lowers soil temperature around nearby crops, especially peppers and basil. The pods come fast, and if you miss a harvest, it still gives you dried seed and tough pods for soup thickening. Practical benefit: in zone 7 to 10, you can treat it like a reliable summer staple, and in cooler zones you still get weeks of harvest in a warm year. Bonus tip: plant okra on the west side of tender beds so you block the harshest afternoon sun without building anything. Number 13. Malabar Spinach. You want greens in a heat wave, and Malabar Spinach laughs at 95 degrees Fahrenheit. It climbs, it sprawls, it keeps making thick, juicy leaves when regular spinach bolts in a panic. The texture feels like a succulent leaf mixed with spinach, and that mucilage actually works in your favor in soups and stews, like nature's gentle thickener. You can trellis it to create a living shade screen near a porch or along a fence. Practical benefit: you get steady greens in summer, and you reduce heat stress on whatever sits behind it. Bonus tip: save a handful of the dark berries at the end of season, and you can reseed it yourself instead of paying for packets again. Number 12. Purslane. Alright, here it is. The one I promised would surprise you. Number 12. Purslane. This weed is basically a heatwave salad that grows when you forget to water. Purslane stores moisture like a tiny cactus, and its leaves taste lemony and crisp, like they already come dressed for summer. Ancient people valued it so much that you'll find it mentioned in old herb traditions because it showed up when other food failed. Practical benefit: you can harvest it repeatedly. It self-seeds in the USA like it owns the place, and it gives you a hydrating, fresh bite when lettuce turns bitter. Bonus tip: next time you see it, don't yank it, snip it at the base, and it regrows while the roots keep the soil cooler. Number 11. Cucamelon. You want something that feels like a cold snack without a refrigerator, and Cucamelon delivers. It grows like a small vine, makes grape-sized fruits that taste like cucumber with a lime squeeze, and it handles summer heat with far less drama than full-size cucumbers. The vines throw shade over the soil like a lacy umbrella. Practical benefit: in many USA gardens you can harvest dozens to hundreds of tiny fruits from one plant, and you pickle them for a pantry win that feels like independence. And what's coming up next will completely change how you think about cooling herbs versus cooling microclimates. Bonus tip, grow it up a cattle panel arch, and you create a shaded walkway that actually feels cooler when you step under it. Number 10. Aloe Vera. You keep aloe, and suddenly the sun's season feels less scary. Aloe stores water in its thick leaves like a living canteen, and that gel has a long history of use on skin, including traditions that reach back into ancient Mediterranean and Middle Eastern remedies. When you snap a leaf, you see the plant's whole strategy: survive heat by saving moisture inside itself. Practical benefit: you can grow it in a pot almost anywhere in the USA, bring it inside for winter, and you have a simple, homegrown first response for minor burns and irritated skin. Bonus tip: keep one pot by the brightest window and another outside in summer shade, so you always have a mature leaf ready. Number 9. Lemon Balm. You rub one leaf between your fingers, and your whole mood shifts. Lemon balm smells like lemon candy and calm at the same time, and it grows like it wants to be useful. In heat, you can brew it as iced tea, and it feels like your nervous system finally unclenches. The plant itself throws a gentle shade over its own root zone, and it rebounds after cutting like a haircut that grows back overnight. Practical benefit: in zones 4 to 9, you can keep it coming for years, and you can dry it for winter, so the cooling doesn't stop when frost hits. Bonus tip: plant it in a bottomless pot sunk in the soil, and you prevent it from spreading everywhere. Number 8. Peppermint. You don't need to explain peppermint to your body, because your body already knows. The scent alone feels like turning down the thermostat in your head. Peppermint grows aggressively, which sounds like a problem, until you realize aggressive equals reliable. It also thrives in partial shade, which means you can tuck it into cooler microclimates where other crops underperform. Practical benefit: you get iced tea, digestive support, and a strong herb you can harvest weekly, and it keeps producing when summer tries to shut you down. Bonus tip: grow peppermint only in containers, then place those containers where you sit outside, because the aroma around you is part of the benefit. Number 7. Comfrey. You want a plant that air conditions your soil, feeds your compost, and builds fertility like a savings account. Comfrey does that. It sends roots deep, pulls up minerals like a mining drill, and then it stacks those nutrients in big, shady leaves that cover the ground. When you cut it, it comes back again and again, like it refuses to quit. Practical benefit: you can chop and drop comfrey as mulch around fruit trees and heat-stressed beds, and you keep moisture in the ground longer during heat waves. Most gardeners spend 3 years waiting for soil to improve, and you can speed that up. Bonus tip: plant comfrey near your compost area, then harvest leaves after rain, because damp leaves break down faster and cool the soil like a thick quilt. Number 6. Yarrow. You see yarrow, and it looks delicate, but it survives like a veteran. This is an old-school homesteader plant, tough, drought-tolerant, and quietly medicinal. Its feathery leaves and flat flower heads bring in beneficial insects, which means your garden fights pests without you spraying chemicals in the heat. It also helps stabilize dry edges of a yard where the sun bakes everything. Practical benefit: you can grow it in zones 3 to 9, and it becomes part of a low-water system that still supports pollination and resilience. Quick pause: if this is already changing how you see your garden, go ahead and subscribe. I release content like this every single day. Bonus tip: cut yarrow flowers before they fully brown, hang them to dry, and you build a simple home apothecary that feels like freedom. Number 5. Grapes. You want shade you can eat, and grapes are one of the smartest ways to get it. A grapevine can cover a pergola, an arbor, or a fence, and once it's established, it turns harsh sun into cool, green shade that you can actually sit under. It's like building a living roof that pays rent in fruit. Practical benefit: many varieties thrive across the USA, and you can get 10 to 30 pounds per vine in good years, plus leaves for wrapping and preserving. Nurseries will never tell you how much freedom comes from one mature vine, because it means fewer store runs. Bonus tip: train grapes to shade the west side of your house or porch, and you cut afternoon heat while harvesting clusters that feel like summer wealth. Number 4. Hardy Kiwi. You hear kiwi and you think tropical grocery store fruit, but Hardy Kiwi grows in cold USA climates, often zones 4 to 8. This vine can explode with growth, and that vigorous canopy creates a cooling curtain of leaves that drops the temperature where you walk and work. The fruit tastes like kiwi but smooth-skinned and snackable, like nature made it easier on purpose. Practical benefit. Once established, you can harvest pounds and pounds from a single vine, and you get serious shade for a trellis or patio edge. And wait, what's coming up next will change how you think about trees as cooling infrastructure. Bonus tip. Give Hardy Kiwi a strong trellis from day one because when you do it right early, you get a safer, cleaner harvest forever. Number 3. Mulberry. You might already have mulberry nearby and not even realize it because it grows like it owns the roadside. Mulberry makes shade fast, feeds birds, and drops sweet berries that taste like a mix of blackberry and grape. When the canopy fills in, you feel the difference underneath, like stepping into a cooler room outside. This is one of those plants old families relied on because it produced even when life got hard. Practical benefit. You get a tough tree that handles heat, and you can dry the berries or freeze them, turning a free yard tree into stored calories and antioxidants. Bonus tip. Put a tarp under the tree for 10 minutes during peak ripeness, and you can harvest a bucket with almost zero effort. Number 2. Elderberry. You want a plant that feels like a real food security plan, and elderberry is it. It grows as a shrub, tolerates a range of USA conditions, and produces clusters of berries that people have used for generations in syrups and preserves. When you plant elderberries, you aren't just planting fruit, you're planting a home medicine habit that can outlast trends. The flowers also feel like summer itself, and you can use them in teas and cordials. Practical benefit. Many gardeners harvest multiple pounds per mature plant, and you can propagate it from cuttings, which means one purchase can become a hedge. Bonus tip. Take pencil-thick dormant cuttings in late winter, stick them in moist soil, and you multiply your elderberries forever without asking a nursery for permission. Number 1. Pawpaw. You want the final boss of cooling plants, the one that feeds you and reshapes your yard into a gentler climate. Pawpaw is a native USA understory tree, which means it naturally grows where you get shade, cooler soil, and less brutal sun reflection. The fruit tastes tropical, like banana and mango had a backyard baby, and it feels almost unreal that it grows in places with snow. When you plant pawpaw, you're planting shade, humidity, and long-term comfort. Practical benefit. Pawpaws thrive in many regions, often zones 5 to 8, and once they establish, you get fruit plus a microclimate where other plants stop scorching. Bonus tip. Plant 2 different pawpaw varieties for better pollination, and mulch deep because you're building a food forest that can feed your family for decades. Now you see the real strategy because this isn't just a list, this is a closed loop, a complete system. When you combine ground cooling covers like sweet potato and purslane with body cooling, herbs like peppermint and lemon balm, and then you add long-term shade makers like grapes, mulberry, elderberry, and pawpaw, you stop fighting heat one miserable afternoon at a time. You start designing comfort and calories together as a whole, like old-school homesteaders did before anyone could buy convenience. Start with just 3 of these. Pick the ones that match your zone, plant them this season, and come back here in 6 months. I promise you, your garden will never look the same because you're not planting plants, you're making investments in freedom, a legacy, and a living system that can feed you forever. Now tell me, which one are you planting first? Number 12 purslane, number 2 elderberry, or number 1 pawpaw? Drop it in the comments, because I read every single one, and you'll help other gardeners choose smarter. Make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss any new video notification. You're not just growing food, you're building the kind of self-sufficiency most people only talk about.